tragic things happen, you think about the people that these things aren't happening to, yet they're burning flags during the 4th of July weekend. And I think to myself, is this really still happening all around us while tragedies like this are happening?
Well, this is a reminder that for me, you know, cause you see other videos out there of people in sunny areas, other areas of the state or the country, and they're jumping into the water, and you think, okay, so here's the world is upside down for a portion of our extended community because Kerr is so close to us. But some people, it's like a new normal, and they're just going through tragedy. Other people, and it's just really, I think it's an opportunity for people to just appreciate their blessings, embrace where you're at the moment. Doesn't mean tragedy is not going to come your way down the road, but just be appreciative for things and grateful. For me, I'm grateful to the Lord for His protections, His guidance, His peace, His provision, whatever. I mean, you know, all of it. I mean, everything is His for me. But it just gives you perspective. I mean, you know, so one moment for somebody is joy, other person it's tragedy, and you know, and it's going on at the same time. I often think that way when I fly over. I don't fly much, but anytime I'm traveling, you think all these people, there's something going on in people's lives underneath you. You see all those cars going on, and I see a plane flying over my head at home, and I think to myself, you know, there's people flying, and our lives going the way it's going. My neighbor's life is going the way it's going. So it's just a perspective builder anytime you deal with this big tragedy like this. But keep praying for them if you're a prayerful person, please.
Think about how people in the middle of this suffering are thinking, why me? And then for those of us who are not going through that kind of suffering in the meantime, we should be asking, why not me?
Yep.
And be thankful to God that He has spared us from that kind of pain and suffering. And in the meantime, like you said, be praying for those who are
To
hurting.
me, it's about the kids, man. The kids.
Precious souls.
It's just heartbreaking. You know, you're not supposed to. You know, I saw what my parents went through when my brother passed away. And, I mean, of course, as a sibling, you deal with that. But it's just not, you're not wired. You're not wired to say goodbye to your child, you know, on this side of heaven. So, but we just keep praying for them, and hopefully, you know, hopefully they find more and more of those children. But, all right. Sorry for the Debbie Downer, but we just got to acknowledge it.
It's been weighing on my mind also. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a break, but we will be right back. And remember, if you're trying to get on Facebook right now, we're not there because we are unable to join Wi-Fi. No. We are. Cool. Yay. Okay.
Good job, Salo.
Okay, we'll be right back then. We will continue with Sidebar on WOAI and on sidebartv.com.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar, and yes, thank you, Salo, for getting this fixed for us. We are now on social media, platform of your choice. You can find one at sidebartv.com. I guess, I don't know where we're going to start, but I felt like the big kind of like, oh, yeah, that happened yesterday was when the president signed his big, beautiful bill. And what does it all mean? I know that we have been fighting for it and hoping everything goes the way of the president because we trust in him. Elon Musk is still bitter and acting like a baby. But what does it mean for us? What happens next, and what should we know?
Well, so what I'm not going to do is act like a know-it-all expert. I mean, because even the experts disagree with each other, and I deal with experts combating each other in court all the time. You got an expert that says, gunshot residue is this, another expert that says this, another expert says gas chromatography is this on a blood draw, another expert says this. Well, you're both experts. How can you both be wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, so what I know is I don't know. And so I'm just listening and acknowledging. You have certain people saying, and the budget office is saying this. Congressional budget office is saying it's going to add $3.3 trillion of spending over the next 10 years. You got certain Republicans saying it's going to actually save money, and we're bringing in tariff money of $2.8 trillion over the next whatever years. And the Congressional Budget Office says the same thing. And this is going to engage ignite the economy.
But all of that's good. Owners. Why is everybody complaining?
Well, because everyone's going to complain. Because, I mean, look, the narrative has been out there. You know, you're going to have Democrats campaigning on this. You're going to have Republicans campaigning on this. And for me, I'm just going to wait. I mean, look, Trump is... I mean, we're going to go through, I'm sure, all the good things about the bill. I mean, many people voted for the bill and they held their nose. A lot of people are supporting the bill and they're holding their nose. And they're just saying, let's just wait. I mean, you know, some people are criticizing it really didn't do anything to really attack the deficit and enough savings. And still spend. Nobody wants to spend. I mean, the main thing it did is it codified Trump's first term tax cuts. I mean, that's a big deal. What people are not acknowledging, I think the people that are criticizing this, is that if these tax cuts dissipated and went away, I mean, this would have wrecked the economy. It would have truly wrecked the economy. You want to talk about recession? It would have wrecked the economy. People would have, now it says, you know, no tax on tips. I don't know how much revenue we get, tax revenue we get from tips. I'll leave that to a bean counter to tell me that later. I mean, overtime doesn't get taxed. And then, of course, Social Security doesn't get taxed. But it's border spending, of course, which I'm all for border spending, military spending, which I'm not against that. I know in the past you thought about these war hawks and everybody wants to go to war. No, but I think we're seeing the instability in the world, that we need to have a strong military, and that'll bring us peace. And I think what we saw what happened in Iran, where you can hit something, not put troops on the ground and come back, which, by the way, where's the World War III, Candace Owens and everybody else that was freaking out? Sorry, Salo. I know that you worship her. But I mean, so all I'm saying is I'm going to wait. I'm going to pause. For me personally, and again, we'll get into details. I'm just giving you an overview. President Trump has earned my trust. I mean, he's earned me to pause. He has. I mean, the tariff was, I think I heard Scott Bessent say the tariff was the dog that didn't bark. I think that was a good phrase.
That's really
people
good.
were wrong about the tariffs. Experts that oppose the tariffs are saying I was wrong. I really respect somebody that
to be clear, we were not wrong about tariffs from day one on this show.
Yes, I didn't claim to be an expert. I just listened to you talk about it. And if you got a mouse in your pocket, that's fine. You weren't wrong about the tariffs. I just want to be honest.
He said you weren't wrong, but you were right.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying I was an observer
in your pocket
asking questions.
Never heard that before.
You haven't? Okay.
And it's again, I want to go back to what you said in the beginning because it's really, really important. The warring experts. If we've seen anything in the age of COVID, it's really sort of a huge downgrade in the credentialed experts, isn't it?
Yes.
And ironically, I came on this show as a credentialed expert to talk about PPE during COVID. So this is not really a self-congratulatory statement here. Look, you got to look at projections and you got to look at actual. There's enough history. So it's like, who do you believe, Nico?
Yeah.
And look, from day one, the first Secretary of the Treasury of the United States was who? Alexander Hamilton.
Yep, he was
from
for tariffs.
Exactly, from Alexander Hamilton through one of my favorite, perhaps my favorite president next to Reagan, Calvin Coolidge, in the late 20s, and who was his Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Mellon, and you go to John F. Kennedy. Yes, we got to throw a Democrat in there. Go to John F. Kennedy. Go to Ronald Reagan, and you look at history. And whenever you've had major economic booms, it's been preceded by some sort of tax cutting. Some sort of economic philosophy that says the people need to hang on to as much of their money as possible because at the end of the day, they earned it. They know the cost of losing it, and tie that to their own personal sense of responsibility and innovation. And that philosophy has led to significant economic booms through history. So I look at the projectors that I respect, and I take them with a grain of salt because, to your point, which is very valid, that's part of the reason there's so much information, a lot of it's so wrong. What do you believe? History matters, and having some sense of history matters. And when I started coming on this show a couple of years ago, Nico, we were talking about COVID, but we were also talking about economics.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, dueling economic philosophies here between Republicans and Democrats. So I dusted off my MBA just to try to see if it was worth a damn, just to try to go back and study not just the projections and the analytical basis for those projections, but also history. Keep both of those together. Trump Trump's history is pretty solid. The reality is that he had tariffs in Trump 1.0, and there's zero evidence that it had any upward inflationary pressure whatsoever.
But we're seeing that now, right, George?
Exactly right. So far, there's money coming into. Why isn't anybody talking about the fact that we have truly billions of dollars coming into the United States Treasury? That's an actual number. That's registered. It's over $100 billion. Why is nobody talking about that? Why is the Congressional Budget Office full of crap? Because they always accentuate the loss in revenue, but they under-accentuate what's going to be gained as a result of the investments that are going to be made. That's the criticism. We're about as nonpartisan as Jerome Powell. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the problem here. It's not. I know you're very concerned about this. Well, let's not do a Republican analysis here. Let's just do an analysis.
I just want to do an objective analysis.
Yeah, I'd call balls and strikes. Yeah. And I think if you just talk about the negative, this bill isn't perfect. It's far from perfect. But you got to talk about the positive too.
Sure.
And there's a lot of positive to go around. And so the question is,
but George,
what's the net?
Let's have an exercise here. Play the opposite, Karen. What's the alternative? I'm not saying you
to
do
keep
something.
going and doing what we're doing.
I'm not saying do anything.
Right.
I'm not saying doing anything.
Right.
But then, so what's the alternative? Is it to make it right and then get all these people to agree? I mean,
which will never happen.
Yeah, right. I mean, so I think the focus point for a lot of Republicans, at least the ones that really supported this, was the fact of these tax cuts. They needed to be codified. I mean, because then you want to talk about worrying about your economy, you're going to worry about that. Now, of course, can you criticize that it didn't save as much money? Some people say it did. Other people say it didn't. It's like, how can you guys look at the same information and come so different? But I deal with that in court all the time. It happens. So we have our biases. We have our opinions. You can look at the same information and bring your expertise and come up with a different result. In the end, the results will be the results, meaning we just have to pause and wait. And I think in 6 months, and Trump has been in office 6 months now, in 6 months of being in office, he has been right about the positions he's taken.
Yep.
I mean, from tariffs, from the economy. I mean, it's booming. Look at the market. The market is at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's over. Everybody's hang on. Don't sell.
Gone.
Don't.
Right.
What did they say? Don't sell. Scott Bessent, don't sell. Trump said, hang tight. Everyone said, and of course, it's hard when you're in the storm.
Yeah.
I mean, as we talked about a storm when we opened up the show, it's hard. But they had forethought, and they were looking, and they were using their experience, and they were right. I mean, the idea with Iran, dealing with the Middle East, dealing with foreign conflict, bombing Iran and going in with the I mean, it's going to start. He was right. Now Iran has said, I'm not. Look, Trump has been right. I mean, I remember Elon Musk had that, and I'm not this dude, by the way. Trump is not right about everything, but he's been right so far. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk, I'm sure he's not proud of those pictures about his hat. Trump's right about everything.
Right,
but in my objective analysis, and I've been critical of President Trump, you guys know that. Some of our listeners don't like it sometimes, but I'm entitled to my opinion. He's been right so far. Yeah. He's been right. I think he's done an excellent job.
Who is this guy? Really?
Elon's new hat might have, in probably a smaller font, the word sometimes underneath everything. I'm thinking he probably edited a little bit. I think you're bringing up, I think, the crux of the issue, which is an underrepresentation of good news because Trump. And that's very frustrating here because there's so much good stuff. It took me, I was coming back from vacation, so I wanted to pick up the phone and call Nico and say, hey, man, I'm just talking about, because I really was genuinely excited about the jobs report. That virtually,
I didn't hear about that. Can you tell me?
Last month, Nico, this is an example about, and it ties into this, to this, big, beautiful bill. Last month, you sent me a text, and you were getting barraged. Nico's sort of the clearinghouse for all negative texts on Trump. And many people who voted for Trump.
Messages to give context to what George is about to say. I was like, oh, what about this? And they send me texts like, well, if I know something, I respond. If I don't, it's like, well, let me Arujo it instead of Google it. Saves me time.
He uses his call friends.
And yet, I think we should have Salo. If we don't have an AskLahood.com, we need to. Because if you want to know what people are actually saying, you got to ask this guy. Okay? So he sends me a text last month, and he's like, hey, man, I'm getting a barrage of people freaking out because the ADP tree. And he said, and ADP had reported that we had a soft spot in the jobs report, and this was for last month. And so the sky's falling because is Trump not right? Do we in fact have a soft economy here that's sort of being undermined by by unemployment. And so ADP reports this, and I responded back almost immediately, and I said, this is farcical. It's just not true. And then I explained that ADP has been consistently wrong. Now, why are they consistently wrong? Because it's not apples and oranges. I mean, it's not apples and apples. It's truly apples and oranges. They're looking at a portion. They're not even competing with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, and now you've got media outlets who are comparing apples and turnips. It doesn't fly. And so I basically explained, look, blow it off. Ignore it. Tell them, if you're going to do that, you're comparing apples and oranges, and it's going to be wrong every time. Look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports, and those are comprehensive. They don't look at a slice of the unemployment data. They look at all of it. And what happened this month again? ADP, by the way, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports on jobs every single month on the first Friday of the month. ADP usually leads that by a couple of days. It used to be a predictor of the jobs report. It isn't anymore. So don't tie them together. Stop freaking out. Look at the official number. Just released yesterday. I think it was just released Thursday, because if it falls on a holiday, it's the Thursday before. 147,000. What's in the data is what really matters. This is a big deal, a huge deal. What's in the data that's not being reported? If you look at the actual report, the amount of foreign-born employment has dropped through the basement.
Are you kidding?
And the amount of American-born employment has skyrocketed. As a result, you see a significant climb in wages.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yep.
If you can't just pay nothing anymore, and you actually have to entice people off the bench who haven't been working, right? You got to raise your wages. So companies are paying Americans more, so much for Americans didn't want to work. Americans are signing up. They want to work. They're getting paid more money. The wages are going up. And then what happens? Well, what happens is the consumer spending, like it or not, we have a consumer spending-based economy. Yeah. Consumer spending goes same philosophy. Give people more of their money.
That's right.
And yes, that includes corporations, those big, bad corporations. I don't mind people. Why do people beat up on corporations?
We'll talk about it after the break.
Because they're millionaires.
Billionaires.
Wait, billionaires. We don't like them. Whatever. Okay.
Not Donnie doesn't like billionaires.
That's right. We are going to take a break. Please stay with us, and thank you for joining us on social media. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Car studio.
I'm Brian Gann on News Radio 1200 WOAI. The very latest on the catastrophic flooding in the Hill Country. First, traffic and weather together.
The WOAI Traffic Center.
Good morning, drivers. We currently have an accident right now closing down eastbound 10 between Ranger Creek Road and Johns Road. That's got traffic backed up from exit 537. Also, some road work on the east side is blocking one lane of northbound 35 between Rittiman and Eisenhower. I'm Carson Parnell, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
Story is the latest on our continuing coverage of the catastrophic flooding in the Texas Hill Country that has left at least 24 people dead, more unaccounted for. Governor Greg Abbott last night said they were not giving up hope, finding more of the missing alive.
Remain in a search and rescue posture right now.
He says many of those missing are children from a private Christian camp, Camp Mystic. More than 10 inches of rain fell in a short time period yesterday morning, and then more rain fell throughout the day, causing the Guadalupe River to flood. The rushing water destroyed homes, campsites, and RV parks. President Trump responded to the flooding, saying the federal government was sending aid and will be supporting Texas in our response. Stay with us for continuing coverage, the latest on the catastrophic flooding in the Texas Hill Country. President Trump, meanwhile, has signed his massive Big Beautiful Bill into law, signing taking place during a 4th of July ceremony late yesterday at the White House, where Trump thanked the Republican leaders who got the spending measure over the finish line. I'm Brian Gann on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station. News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. Macy's Backstage is a whole new floor inside your Macy's store. And right now, you'll find the latest summer styles all for under $25. With new arrivals every day, you never know what amazing deals you'll find. So don't wait. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com.
1200 WOAI. Thank you so much for joining us on social media. Also, if we stable out and it stays stable on social media, we're going to continue after the show, so stick with us. It's working right now. We really appreciate you, especially during this holiday weekend, that you are taking the time to be with us. And if you are just now joining us, remember sidebartv.com is where you can find the social media platform that you can join us now and after the show. So everybody raise your hands. Did you watch all 7 hours of Hakeem Jeffries when he was filibustering? No. Oh, I can tell. George did watch it.
No. I thought it was longer than that.
George read the transcript.
I don't know. Maybe I was at 7 hours when I just saw some clips and I was like, the dude is drinking a lot of water. He better stop drinking water.
I didn't.
What the heck? No. What?
So it was Medicaid. And that's not the case.
I know, but how can he just stand there and say that?
They put requirements on Medicaid that, look, if you're going to get aid, right? Aid is for people that need help because they're able-bodied. You have to work. It's like some low number, too, like 80 hours. What is it, 80 hours a month? It's part-time work. I don't know what it is. If someone can correct me. But it's a working requirement. What's wrong with that? I mean,
right, the expanded working requirements, you have to work for at least 20 hours a week.
That's 80 hours a month. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just the language of the bill, but thank you. Thank you for multiplying that. Threw me off.
Yeah.
But so Republicans admittedly missed an opportunity. They started doing on the tail end. And I think that helped them to say, look, we are not cutting anybody from Medicaid who shouldn't already be on there. We're cutting people from Medicaid who should have never been on there to begin with. And admittedly, that's a weakness of the bill. Mm-hmm. The strength of the bill is also the weakness in that regard, like you just said. And in addition, they also increased provisions for additional eligibility checks. There are more frequent eligibility checks to make sure that there's less chance for corruption of the system. That's a good thing. And so what did Democrats do? They spun it into, well, they're going to deny health care and thousands of people are going to, again, the lying is just exhausting. And I think, do these people forget that we just had an election in 2024 where people are tired of the hyperventilating? In other words, the only platform that the Democrats bring forward is how can we hate Trump, differently today. But nevertheless, how can we hate him? Let's find a creative way to hate him today. That's the only strategy they have. The bill is packed full with solutions to problems. At least these are solutions. We're actually trying to do things. And so the spending and the revenue and the federal debt limit provisions of the bill are shored up into an economic package that I think sort of reduces these gains down to the average American. That's the objective here, and all of the signs in the economy are the people are receiving that message, and there's an optimism about it. Let's see what happens. I mean, it's early yet, but it looks really, really good. I for one. And beyond excited about it, Nico.
Well, I think the potential here with the synergy of what's going on. I mean, because you have the jobs report, you have inflation down, you have good reporting, workers are getting paid more. George kind of broke down what Scott Besson had. Scott Besson is a badass. Can we just Treasury? But I don't know. This is the formula that got us here. I don't know. I guess you got to think long term because Scott Besson would be there.
He's got some great lieutenants. I mean, there's a lot sort of mini Bessons around him. I think that could do the job. But boy, I mean, whatever. I mean, let's see what happens. I'd love to see it. I hope Trump announces it early.
Well, and no kidding. But but with this bill passing and then the trade deals coming through, and there seems to be more and more trade deals.
Yep.
I mean, what did he say? I mean, Trump's about peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals. I mean, that's what he's doing. He's making deals. And they've ended up on his side.
I know,
and
but
even going through the courts.
When everybody's benefiting, all Americans, Republicans, Democrats, when everyone is benefiting, how are they going to rip this apart? How are they going to tear them down?
Well, it's because it's an ideology. So we're going to get into Ramzani or Mamdani or whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an ideological thing. I mean, they just have a different vision for America.
But if they'll be living better. I don't get that.
You have to be working. The bar's low. If you're working, you're doing well, right?
Yeah.
Get a job. So the bill definitely pushes gainful employment, and it stresses the dignity of hard work in America. That's traditional Americanism, but it's rational. And seriously, the bill reads that way. I didn't read the new one. I read the original one. God help me. But it's rational, Nico. You extend tax spending. That's sort of how it flows. And this isn't pie in the sky. It's actuality in history, in American economic history. And so Trump is simply taking a tried and true formula. He's doubling down on it, injecting it with steroids, and launching it. And I'm glad that he is. Look, there's a provision in a bill. It's provision 70307. And I think this is ingenious. And it gives corporations the ability to write off or small businesses, 100% of all their investments in a 3-year cycle starting January 1st of 2024 and ending December 31st of 2026. So it's retro.
Yeah.
So capital investments, typically equipment, but here's the beautiful thing. They've extended it to infrastructure and buildings.
Yeah.
And you take all of it immediately. Can we just pause and stop and think about the infusion of cash that alone?
This is a huge incentive to start businesses.
Yeah.
And when you start a business, what do you do to have businesses? You have employees.
Hire people.
You hire people. You pay them wages. You give them health care, whatever it is. That's part of the negotiation. But they're touting, Scott Besson is touting that the United States will be the best place to start a business for all the things that George does. Everything gets written off.
Immediately. It's called the Qualified Production Property Provision 70307. Think about that. 100% of those expenses.
But see, I'm glad you're explaining this, George, because it's important. Because Alamo Talk, who we love that he's with us, and he has a different opinion, but we welcome his opinion. Thank you for being here. I think Karen or some Salo just sent me a text. The big beautiful bill is merely a gift to the wealthiest that will be paid from borrowed money deficit. But that's not the way we've just explained it. It doesn't just work that way. I understand your perception. Alamo talk about that, but it's not to the wealthiest, because any business owner, if you start a business that's not $1 billion business, maybe it's $1,000 business, thousands, or $1 million business, but you're going to employ 10 people. You're not the wealthiest. If you have an employee, if you're employing 10 to 30 people, you're not amongst the wealthiest of the nation, but you're providing jobs for your community. So it doesn't just help benefit the wealthiest. I know, brother, that's a talking point, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because it's not accurate from the left or people that oppose this, but it's not that way. It doesn't play out that way, and I think the objective evidence supports that position. Go ahead, George.
No, I mean, it's actually codified in the bill, and they mentioned that the depreciation thing is, and for Alamo Talk, anybody who's listening, this really is a big deal, and it's spelled out in the bill. Typical depreciation rules fall under Section 168 of the IRS Code. And it allows partial expensing of equipment purchases, and they get depreciated over time. And this new proposal blows that out of the water. Check it out, please. Read it, see what you think. If you think I'm full of crap, right back to Sidebar. Let me know, because I think you'll see what I'm talking about. Section 70307 extends immediate expensing to physical structures.
Yeah.
Think about that. Buildings and infrastructure. It's typically, Nico, just equipment related.
Right.
The asset class is typically restricted to equipment. This includes buildings now, 100% in the immediate year. How in the world that doesn't trickle down to the worker? Are you kidding me? Corporations get more efficient. The dollars go into making production more efficient. I know there's a whole other question here about AI and what AI is going to do. We'll save that for another time. Yeah. I think it's a good thing. And I, for one, do not believe, and the bill does actually tackle, it was one of the provisions that was holding everybody up, the AI provision that Marsha Blackburn fought so hard for. But I am not of the view that AI is going to be apocalyptic in nature. I don't believe it's going to wipe out all the jobs and you'll have a bunch of robots. What I do believe is that some jobs are going to be eliminated, but it's going to create better jobs for the people who no longer have those jobs. So I think it's going to affect every industry. I would even argue it's going to affect law firms. So perhaps, let me give you an example.
Not trial law firms.
I was going to say, let's say a junior lawyer, you might, whatever was requiring, let's say, 10 junior lawyers to do, you could probably do now with three lawyers and AI.
Yeah, no.
And so
sure.
it's just a law of efficiencies there.
What about doctors?
Well, no, I don't believe for a second. What doctors are using is AI. They're actually using AI to be more efficient. That's already happening in the surgical rooms. But I think, the idea of them completely replacing the diagnostic element of a doctor, and certainly the bedside aspect of a physician.
So, Salo, your proctology report will not be from AI. It's still going to be a camera.
Salo, the answer's already out there in the question, though. I mean, complex surgeries are being done through AI arms right now, but there's a doctor there.
Yeah.
That's supervising that. And so it's helping the doctor going from accurate to precise. And that's a big deal. And that's what AI, it's a step change. But the idea that it's going to replace, I don't see any evidence of that. So I'm excited. I think we have what we predicted a couple months ago. We're right on track. I think you guys should be very excited. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. What did John F. Kennedy say? A rising tide lifts all boats.
All boats.
There is a significant economic renaissance around the corner. It's already happening. It's already happening, and it's going to go boom, and not in a bad way. So, anyway.
Do you see also, remember when Trump was talking about the ultra rich foreigners that could come in and buy American citizenship for
$5 million,
$5 million, $10 million, or whatever it is? I mean, do you see this as being more reason for companies to come in and open up as American citizens?
Well, they got to recoup that $5 million, so yeah.
I can just think that that's going to be another big way to make money for
Nico
America.
and I kind of addressed that in a sort of backwards way last time we talked, because we were talking about how people were concerned, particularly in the Hispanic community, that, hey, yeah, we're all for, border security. But then, oh my goodness, now we're rounding people up on the interior.
Right.
And we're deporting, what about for economics, for jobs, and that kind of thing.
I got to cut you off.
We can answer that on the
okay.
other side.
Thank you so much for being with us. We are going to be right back with more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
Thank you so much for being here. We know it's a holiday weekend. A lot of people in and out of town, busy with family, but that you're here, we appreciate you, and we would love for you to go to sidebartv.com, consider contributing to the show, but thank you, as always, for being a part of our online audience.
Well, our online audience is going to end at 10, right? I guess we're still having problems with the Wi-Fi and glitching.
Oh, okay. At 10 o'clock?
So we're not going to have an after show, unfortunately, which sucks. But so we're going to have to do rapid fire right now. I know we need to still talk about Mamdani or whatever. And I don't know if we're going to get into that Gallup poll or not. After all, that was going to be an after show topic maybe. But I don't know if you wanted to start jumping in. And we can talk about the big, beautiful bill for all the rest of the show. But I know,
but those two go together. I think the New York City, mayoral candidate and people not caring about America. I mean, to me, that kind of goes together, doesn't it? Him not really being a Democrat, is he? AOC and him like being the dream team for the Democrats. Is that real?
Yes. I mean, it kind of goes all together. So, I mean, he represents a different. I don't even think he's a Democrat. He's a communist.
He's not.
He says he's a socialist. He admits that. He's only been a citizen since 2018, from what I've seen.
That's right.
And George knows this because George applied for citizenship, and Salo still isn't a citizen. But I mean, joke, he is. But you have to. You can't. When you apply, you can't be a communist or align with communist ideology. That's in the application. I mean, for a reason. I mean, and I think that's good. That was from back in World War II. But I think that's a good thing, and I think that should extend to other forms and ideologies that we can talk about at another time, whether it's Sharia law or whatever else. I mean, we're a constitutional republic, and the Constitution has to prevail, and anyone that cannot pledge their allegiance to support and defend the Constitution, either as a citizen or as a public servant, should not have a citizenship. I mean, seriously, or should not serve. I mean, we're not going to have this country. And if you want to change the country, then so be it, I guess. But all I'm saying is it's that. So what he represents, I think, is a progressive movement. And what we're seeing here is we have this distinction. I think the conservatives make a distinction, from what I can tell, between the country and the government. Like, I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian conservative. I can be pissed off at the government and not trust the government, but yet love the country and support the country. Progressives can't do that. Progressives tie the government to the country. And so their disgust with the country gives them a disgust for their disgust for the government gives them a disgust for this country. And so they want to burn the country down and build it back up again with a different ideology into their perfection. There's been different definitions of progressivism, but progressivism, I know there's other definitions, but I was actually talking to Patrick about this, and I thought it was really good. It's an ethos that seeks perfection. We can define what that means, their definition, of man and his society through the instrumentality of the state. Let that sink in a little bit. An ethos, an ideology, a worldview, a set of ideas that seeks perfection, their definition of that, of man and his society through the instrumentality of this. So the state is an instrument to bring this utopian perfection to man, and you're going to like it, by the way. I mean, so, and then their definition of perfection in this utopia farce is something very different. And so that's a very different mindset, and they want this radical change. People like Mamdani, or whatever his name is, they want radical change. But our constitutional republic and our system through the different chambers of Congress is not set up for radical change. It's set up for incremental change. We don't want radical change. We want stability, and we really govern from the middle when you really think about things, not extremes.
Yeah.
And so a progressive doesn't want that. So you have this distinction between conservatives and progressives. And progressives, I know we hear about it more, but it's a term. People have been studying progressives and progressive ideology for close to 100 years, I guess, maybe longer. Margaret Sanger was a progressive, right? I mean, look at her stupid ideas, and look at her definition of perfection. She was an evil witch. I can't use it because I'm not on the after show, what I want to say. But I mean, so she started Planned Parenthood, by the way, and really was pushing abortions of blacks. I mean, so she was an evil woman, but her perfection sucked. So I guess it ties in to that Gallup poll, these progressives, and he represents progressives and what he's. But let me tell you something right now. I'm gonna punch it to George. I'll shut up. I promise you. But this guy's dangerous, and dangerous in the sense of he's good. I watched an interview of him. Yep. This guy puts Newsom to shame. Because Newsom, you can tell he's a snakesman. He's a car salesman, and he's selling snake oil. You can just see it. It's from his fake hair to his stupid smile, but he's got charisma. I always said Newsom has charisma. But now that we have a history with Newsom, we know he's full of crap, right? This dude, I mean, he's young, but he's saying the right things, and he's distorting stuff just enough. And how do you make a lie believable? You take a little bit of the truth and you expand on it, and you take it off the rails. And he's very effective. And I'm telling you, you better watch out. This guy is something to contend with.
I think that's street talk.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's dangerous.
Yeah.
Last week you said there was no chance this guy could be the
Okay,
mayor.
in my view, if you look at the numbers, it's early in the game right now, and he's a shiny new object, and a handsome guy, and he's saying radical things, and so, and this is our I'm sorry, our culture's kind of geared that way. I mean, this is the whole thrust behind social media, the newest sort of shiny thing that everybody gets behind, and so I get it. Some of that is at play here because the vast majority of his thrust are these young people who are sort of excited about this new thing, right? And that's true. That's in the poll numbers. Nico knows that between now and Election Day for the general, it's a lifetime, and yet it's not. And so I'm just looking at the numbers right now, and there's one poll that has come out, and I'm combining that with what we've already known prior to the poll, which is that there's a big schism inside the Democrat Party. There are people who are just divesting themselves of this guy. Look, the reality of this guy has been his philosophies are clearly anti-Semitic. When you don't, like we said last week, when you don't divest yourself of global intifada language, that's a very, very big problem because there's no ambiguity around that means. I don't care how much he tries to spin it. NBC is not the world. And you've got 1.3 million Jews inside New York City. That's 20% of the electorate. Okay? Not a good idea to alienate those people. And those people typically vote Democrat. And the only poll that I've seen right now, I think it's an American Survey poll, and the guy's named Olson. I think it's Dustin Olson, who's the pollster. He's come out and been pretty sort of granular in his analysis. And he said, look, right now, in the general, Mamdani's at 35%. Andrew Cuomo, believe it or not, is at 29%. Now remember, Mamdani won in this ranked choice primary by 12 points. In the general, he's at a 6-point difference. It's a different population that's voting there.
Different.
So that's down to 6 points. Then you've got Eric Adams, who's running as independent, and he's at 14 points. And in every single poll, Eric Adams can't seem to get beyond 10 to 14%. So he's not going anywhere. I would be shocked if Adams didn't drop out. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll stay in. We'll see. But I think, and Nico brought this up, because the more you have a split ticket, the more that's going to help Mamdani.
Yep.
And I think you're going to see a coalescing of people around Mamdani, because the reality is, among the money, he's grossly unpopular, and they're scared to death of him. And I think those divisions, plus what the poll also reveals, is that when those individuals who are full-throated for him get to hear his proposals, the stuff we've been talking about, remember, he's on video saying he wants to seize the means of production. This is important.
Yep.
This is between socialism and communism. In socialism, philosophically, the government can control the means of production. In communism, the government goes and takes it. There's no democracy here. They go and take it. He's okay with that. He's also okay with having higher taxes for whiter neighborhoods. That
I saw that.
WHITER. These are race-based taxation policies. That's insane. That won't even pass constitutional muster. But this is the philosophy behind this guy. He is decidedly communistic in his view. And so, Nico, I think he's very capable as a campaigner, but the more people wake up,
yeah, but he's not going to say what he's going to do. He's going to speak just enough about it and make it appealing.
The problem is, he hasn't been around that long, right? It's only about 3 or 4 years.
He's only been a citizen since 18, yeah.
Exactly. So there's enough video out there of him saying
communal
insane,
living,
like defund the police. There's video on him saying that.
Government grocery stores.
And pushing for queer liberation, for instance, philosophically. Literally taking landlord property. Yes, I mean that. Seizing landlord property, not just rent caps. There's enough video out there. This stuff's scary stuff, and I think what you're saying is right. He's dangerous in policy, but he's also dangerous because right now he's a shiny new object, and he can articulate things.
He's articulate.
And he can articulate these things pretty well.
Charisma.
But he's evasive. He's effectively evasive, and of course he's on friendly venues. You're not going to see him going on a.
But you have an. And I don't mean this I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Ignorant just meaning not informed. Voting block. I mean, you got people that you shake the shiny object in front of them, and that's what they're. Look at who's supporting him. We talked about that last time. I mean, these newly, I guess, white liberals or whatever it is that
just graduated from Harvard.
No, they're white, affluent, college-educated liberals. Yeah, that's right. This is sort of faux virtue signaling,
and they don't realize it. It's like the what is that? The Chick-fil-A advertisement. Where it's like Chick-fil-A, supporting chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, it's going to come back and bite them in the ass. They don't realize that, but it just sounds good because their ideology is different, because they want to make it different, because they're progressive and they want radical change, and they don't like the way the government is, and they can't distinguish, like I said earlier, between the government and the country, and so they're spiting their. And
when they can't buy their own place, the thought of communal living, and they can't afford their own groceries, so a grocery store that gives you $1 item, it sounds good to them because they feel like they could never get it.
The government, look, I mean, as much as I respect people that work for the post office, I mean, you have FedEx for a reason.
Yes.
I mean, right? So so the government, what does the government do great? I mean, the government doesn't do a lot of things great. I mean, our borders are doing it better now. That's wrong with the government. The idea behind the United States is to have limited government, keep us safe, protect us in war, have law enforcement, make sure that we can walk to the grocery store, that we can have our political debates in peace, that no one's trying to kill us and burn down, have order. We need law and order, of course. And so that's the purpose of government. But don't tell me how to live my life. Don't tell me what to think. Don't tell me what to do with my kids. I mean, obviously you can't commit a crime to your child, but within reason. But I mean, we want freedom. The idea behind this country is freedom, free thought, free expression of that thought, freely to gather, to express our disagreement with the government appropriately. And so that's not what this guy stands for. This guy stands for.
I like what you said, because I think that's the crux of the issue. It's an ignorance problem. And these individuals who are excited about him have come up through educational institutions that sort of push ignorance. They don't teach on communism. They don't teach on socialism. They don't teach about literally a century full of horrors here, where these policies have been tried in various countries and failed miserably and left their populations in utter misery. None of that is taught. That's the problem, which dovetails into what you were going to say, this idea that Gallup is reporting that Americans are less patriotic now, less proud of their country than they've ever been. But most of that downward swing is being influenced by Democrats. In 2001, 87% of all Americans are proud of the country. Now it's 58%.
Yeah, I know a lot of Democrats that are proud of the country. I think this progressive influence has really taken over the Democrat Party. We've seen it. Look what happened to Bobby Kennedy. Look what happened to Tulsi. Look what happened to Reagan back then. I mean, I know, again, I make the distinction between the blue dog, the yellow dog, and then the progressive. And we don't have time to talk about it now. Look, guys, we're not going to be able to do the after show because of Wi-Fi issues. I don't know if the rain, the weather, whatever. So, Saulo, thanks for trying. I know it was glitchy and it's just that it's counterproductive. But please, if you want to donate to the show, please go to sidebartv.com. Any amount will help us, of course, to keep doing these shows and to expand our reach. But more importantly, pray for the people in Kerrville and the surrounding area. Pray for those families of those children that are missing, and pray that they will be found, of course. But just pray for peace and protection over that community. God bless you guys. Happy 4th of July.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of